Let me interrupt for a moment so I can start the recording and say good morning to everyone who's here. Good morning to all of you who are here, the people who are on Facebook watching this stream. Glad you guys are here. The people who are on YouTube watching this stream, glad you guys are here. And good morning to all the people who are here. Let me do that thing where we can see all different Zoom boxes. Hey, people in different Zoom boxes waving. Glad you guys are all here. If you are not in one of the Zoom boxes and would like to be in a Zoom box, you can. If you go to rotb.org, you sign up for the newsletter and you get entry into being one of the participants. We always love to have people participating. This is a community, and part of how it stays a community is that people interact. So I'm so glad that you guys are here, willing to put your faces on a screen. So we can all become part of a group. A group is made out of people, individuals who come together for a purpose, and that's what we're here for. Good morning, Meg. Good morning, Eileen and Bob and Kip and Harold and Rob and Bruce, Rags and Charlene. Good morning, Derek and Maria and Jack, Chad, Lisa, Ron, Michael, Emily, Lee, Alma, Joy, and Alex, and anyone who I didn't yet say
It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood.
It does. It feels a little bit.
Would you be mine?
It feels a little bit like Mr. Rabbi's neighborhood, and glad you guys are all a part of it. It's just wonderful. Well, I missed you guys. I was away for 2 weeks, which with my family, which was, and I've been thinking about how to describe where I was and what was going on, and I thought of it this way: was anything that I say as to how the experience was will become, in a way, the reality of the trip. I brought a few pictures. I can't stand but to not show you. Here's all of us in the Portland airport. And Annie made the great decision that there's something called a 0.5 selfie. And that's what you're looking at here, is that she could take the picture and get everything in with kind of almost a fisheye look to it. And here was our first stop, was we made it to Amsterdam, where they use a lot of bicycles.
Wow.
Yeah, yes.
That is not a junkyard. That is outside the train station where all people are waiting for their microphones. And you can see, again, there's Annie's arm in the 0.5 selfie. And I'll show you one or two more little photos. Here's the top of the Arc de Triomphe, and here's all four of us at the top of the Arc de Triomphe. And you might wonder where Jane and Annie are. They're on the phone. You can see right next to my hat. They stayed at the bottom. They decided after the
That's what I would do.
They didn't want to make the climb, which was perfectly understandable. We did a lot of climbing, a lot of walking. I'll show you. Here's this one. This was Chartres Cathedral, and just overwhelmingly beautiful and stained glass. And here's what I wanted to bring up, was whatever I tell you about the trip, and I've had the opportunity, I interacted with some neighbors. Well, how was your trip? And I would say something. I said, well, besides and I can show you, hold on, I'm going to zoom in. Here you can see the remains of the bed bugs from Paris.
Wow.
Oh
my God.
Yes.
Yikes.
Yeah, that was just some of them. I got plenty of them.
Dirty French.
It was but here's
We heard Annie didn't get any.
Well, Annie and Emmett were in a separate room. They did not get bitten. And Jane, I didn't think that I had bed bugs because she didn't get bitten. But it wasn't until we found out afterwards that 30 to 60%, which is a large range, 30 to 60% of people do not show any signs of having been bitten by bed bugs. So she probably got bitten as well. She just didn't. She forgot to swell up and get itchy.
Well, that's good.
How inconsiderate.
My point was, and I'm going to try to get back to, is how was the trip? Oh, we had bed bugs in Paris. If that's what I lead with, that's the story I'm telling.
Right.
If I lead with, oh my God, I had the most amazing food I've had in my entire life, that's the story I'm telling.
Mm.
And so if I ask you today, how are you? What's going on? How you answer affects the reality of how I understand what you experienced, but it also affects your narrative is your life. So how are you? And you start to complain about the bed bugs, which I'm not saying there's anything wrong about complaining about bed bugs, but that becomes part of the story.
Right.
And how are you? I'm fantastic. That we are our own narrators. We are
You
the
look
authors.
fantastic.
Well, thank
Look
you, Rob.
marvelous.
And how are you? I'm fantastic. I look fantastic. Gives a very different response to how are you? I'm exhausted. I can't seem to sleep more than an hour at a time without having to pee. That's actually true. I don't know what it is. The jet lag really hit me in the weirdest way. And every hour, almost on the hour, I woke up and it's like, oh my God, we're adults. I've got to go pee. Like it wasn't the kind of, I woke up and it's like, I can keep napping. It was, I am afraid I'm going to not make it if I don't go to the bathroom. Anyway, it's what we tell is the reality we have. And I have a little formula for us about this. It goes, hold on. We haven't done this one in a long, long time. And it looked like this. Was our reality, our sense of gratitude, how happy we are in life, is made out of two things. And we control both of those things. Gratitude is equal to the moments of thankfulness.
Yes. Minus
Minus what? Do you remember?
complaints.
Minus the number of active complaints. How are you? How was your trip? If I tell you more of the complaints than the number more, if I complain more than I'm telling you about how wonderful the trip was, it's going to skew my whole trip. And so that being said, I ask you to consider for a moment if I were to say, hey, Charlene, but put your own name instead of Charlene's. But Charlene, I'm going to use you for a moment. Is that all right?
Yep.
And if I say, hey, Charlene, how are you doing today? Charlene has
great.
infinite number of choices of how she's going to answer. Go ahead, Charlene. How are you today?
I'm feeling great.
Why? What's going on?
I'm watching a little bubble thing in the bird bath, and it gives me pleasure.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that great? You had a choice of actually an infinite number of different things you could have said of how you are. What is a bubble thing?
It's a little bubbler that runs on solar power. So it
Like a
puts
little fountain.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So I ask you, how are you? And I ask you all to think about it. And before you answer, I'll give you a moment. Would you like to change your mind on how you were about to answer? We also, and the flip side of this is we do also have hard times, and we need to feel heard about those, and ignoring them and pretending they didn't happen, that doesn't work in the long run. And we do need to also voice, hey, I have long COVID. It's a fucking bummer. Or whatever it is that's going on. Okay. I'm going to pause for a moment because I don't, I had thought more conversation would have been happening by this point. So I'm going to go right ahead. I heard Emily start to say something to try to save me.
I gave the dog corn cobs after we finished them last night. The pup corgis, and by morning time, after they've been in their kennels, they shit all over the kennels, inside the kennels.
Ooh.
Yuck.
The good thing is, number one, my son is out there cleaning and sanitizing them. And number two, you make the best thing, you learn best by your mistakes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And you should always make lots of mistakes when you're young, because when you're old, people say, well, she's old enough to know better than that.
I have a phrase right here. I'm going to try to find it and pull it up. It's exactly what you're talking about. Here it is. Oh, hold on. Let me get the glare off of it. Oh, wise guru, please tell me, what is the secret to a happy life? Good judgment, says the guru. How do I achieve good judgment? Bad judgment.
Yep. Yeah.
I had a professor, Kentaro Tsutsumi, and he used to say, experience is the best teacher. Unfortunately, it gives the exam first.
Very good.
The way we learn best, and you're absolutely right, Emily, the way we learn best is by making mistakes. Quick show of hands. You don't actually have to do this because I know the answer. How many of you enjoy making mistakes?
Yeah.
A small percentage. It's all right to have made the mistake and to learn. It's all about learning. Okay, I'm put that away. Cool. Other comments on the what part of the... Well, I kind of find that funny because I wrote this. I wrote it as a note to myself. I wrote, what part of the trip do I share? And I hadn't thought of it until this moment of when someone asks you, how are you? Well, what part of the trip do you share? Not talking about not necessarily talking about a trip out of the country or to a different place, but this life as a trip. What part of the trip do you share?
The psychedelics.
We are all the
Those are hard to share.
We are all the curators of our own stories. We do have the choice of what it is that we share. I'm going to be quiet for a moment.
Great trip.
It is a great trip.
Long, strange trip it's been.
It has been a long, strange trip. It is.
And Grateful
From
Dead.
the Doors.
Grateful Dead.
Dead.
Okay.
I think that's from I forget now.
It's all right. All right.
Trucking.
It's entered the common vocabulary wherever it's from.
Wonderful. I want to take a moment to reflect back. The last 2 weeks, our friend Afia was at the helm here running the service, and boy, she is just good stuff. Just good stuff. I had a great time watching afterwards and seeing it. And she did give y'all a little homework assignment, and I'm wondering, I don't know that you did it or you didn't. She asked, because we have had this practice of talking about whose land are we on, or who was on this land before we were on this land. And she asked if you might take a moment to look up something about who those people were and to learn a little bit more about Native rights. And I've happened to find out that here in the state of Oregon, we just a whole number of universities said, hey, if you are native of, you're allowed to attend any of our universities. And if you're out of the state and you're a native ancestry, you're allowed to come to any of our schools in-state for in-state tuition price. You don't no longer have.
Yay.
So I thought I would share that little piece of
That's good news.
Because they didn't leave voluntarily.
Correct. And I'm wondering if anyone else took a moment and learned a little bit more about this important about this important thing. And if not, I'm looking at the screen of faces, and I don't see anyone volunteering. So I'll say I'm going to put that on us again for next week, is to look at whose land are you on, whose land was this before you got here, and what can you learn more about native rights and native land. Yeah. Go ahead, Ron.
What's the website?
Cascade Band of the Paiute Nation.
And did you learn anything more about the Cascade Band of the Paiute Nation in the last week?
Yeah, they were most of the Paiute Nation was on the east side of the Cascades, and the Paiute Band were on the west side.
Fantastic. Thank you for looking in and doing a little bit more. Go ahead, Lee.
So I'm on Mi'kmaq territory.
What'd you learn?
The entire province of Nova Scotia is Mi'kmaq. One of the things that I do in the course of my job with early childhood education is we have developmental interventionists who are in most of the regions that the Mi'kmaq have as reserves. Two of these reserves have done a lot of work in the translation application through Apple of the language. So,
very cool.
One of the things I did is I distributed out 150 mobile devices to people, and I also downloaded a Mi'kmaq translation program.
Well,
that comes from Eskasoni. It is a very impressive group of people over there, and I've started talking to them and just seeing what else they're doing and seeing if I can volunteer and help.
I love that, Lee, and I'm going to put that on everyone else following Lee's example. See how you can't get a little more involved. Learn a little bit more. Push that football down the field. That's a terrible analogy to use right now.
Score!
Forget about the football.
I genuflect in your general direction, Lee.
I wanted to try something a little different today and go back to the newsletter that went out the last 2 weeks. The one that went out on Monday last was about my teaching the special the lower achieving students at my school, and how the salient quote to me was the one that said, "They don't care what you know until they know that you care." It was about me getting the kids involved and learning to draw hamburgers, and them doing well on this test because they wanted to reciprocate kindness and love, which I think is that quote attributed to St. Augustine, I think it is, who said, oh my goodness, I totally just blanked out. I knew I was going, I couldn't remember. I had the quote in my head, and then I thought, I can't remember who said it. Then I remember who said it, and I lost the quote.
Yep.
That's right.
The quote was about, I would rather see a sermon than hear a sermon.
Amen.
That if we want to teach people about love and kindness, and that the way to do that is by being loving and kind. It's not by telling them, it's by doing it.
Yep.
Okay. Bob, you have your hand up. Let me.
Yeah, I was going to say you could always make up a quote and he won't know the difference.
I could.
Me.
That reminds me of a quote. Did you know that 57% of statistics are made up on the spot?
I think it's higher than that.
I did not know that.
I think it was higher. I think that was higher.
Okay. I wanted to, so that was the last week's was about me teaching about love. And the week before there was something involved, and folks, brace yourselves. We're doing stupid human tricks. We're doing a little bit of a frustration exercise here. And here's how this one goes. It looks like this. There was a thing that I tried to teach my classes. Why is my screen not changing? Please hold. There it is. Here's the edge of my desk. There are still more bites.
Ooh.
And I asked my students to do this. It was just to go fist, thumb, fingers, pinky. And I'm going to ask you on a surface that you have nearby to do the same thing, to go fist, thumb, fingers, pinky. Do it again. It goes fist, thumb, fingers, pinky. Fist, thumb, fingers, pinky. I see a whole bunch of you doing that. As a kid, we used to do this when we were bored waiting for food. We would go food, waiter, 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 food, waiter, waiter, food, waiter, 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 fist, thumb, fingers, pinky, fist, thumb, fingers, pinky, fist, thumb, fingers, pinky. How are we doing on that? Is that all right? Can you? And if we remember the levels of learning, 1, 2, 3, 4, the stages. So here I'm walking you through it. We're at stage 1, stage 2, where I'm having to walk you through fist, thumb, fingers, pinky. Let me see you do it. Fist, thumb, fingers, pinky. And then let's add in the second hand, because most of us got the two-hand ability. So we go fist, thumb, fingers, pinky. Fist, thumb, fingers, pinky. Fist, thumb, fingers, pinky. And I wrote about this, about how students were able to do this, and then soon enough I didn't have to say it anymore, and they could continue doing it, and I see y'all doing it. Connie, I see you in the background there. Hi. I got you. You're doing great. Fist, thumb, fingers, pinky. And then we're going to jump up a level. And this was the big challenge. The first exam that I gave to every single class that I had. Well, that's not true. Once I started doing, I started teaching when my first year of teaching. I didn't realize that my greatest strength was not to be teaching math all the time. My greatest strength was to be connecting with the students and then bring in the math. And so once I learned that, I started doing these things with the students, which don't seem to do with math. And the challenge then was to do one hand
differently,
syncopated off by one step.
And
I'll show you how this works. So let's do it together. Let's do it together, shall we? Left hand is going to start at fist, while right hand is at thumb. I'm going to do it with you really, really slowly. Left hand is at fist, right hand is at thumb. I think about left hand as the younger sibling who's always looking at the right hand saying, "Oh, I want to do what you're doing." And so left hand is going to go to thumb, but right hand goes ahead one. So it goes right over to pinky, goes over to fingers. Left hand's going to say, "I want to be over at fingers," goes over to fingers. And while it does so, right hand moves over to pinky. Left hand's going to move over to pinky, and right hand's going to move to fist. And we're one step off. And this is hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm having a great time looking at all your different faces. Your faces are telling wonderful stories. I got some of your faces that saying, "Oh yeah, well if he can do that, I can do that." And I got some faces that are saying, "I'm out."
Yeah, me too.
Let's pause for a moment and let me ask you this. There's no reason to have to do this. Fist, thumb, fingers, pinky. Is this an impossible thing? Is this something that you could do?
Slowly.
Slowly.
Very slowly.
Yeah. But if given 2 weeks, do you think by September 14th, if I were to give you a large enough prize for doing it?
Raffle ticket.
I'm going to give you prize better than 1 raffle ticket, better than 2 raffle tickets. I'm going to give you a huge prize for doing so. If there were a large enough reason to do it, if there was a reward large enough for doing it, do you think within 2 weeks' time you'd be able to show up at a Saturday service and go, bam, 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 bam? Do you think you could?
Maybe.
No.
Yes.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe.
Yep, I think so.
It would cure my dyslexia.
It might.
I am totally uncoordinated.
So it might be much harder for some of you. Betsy plays the piano. Her left hand and right hand and her feet have been practiced doing different things for a long time.
Right.
I'm putting my money on Betsy.
Yep.
Yep.
And I'm putting twice as much money on Alma, who doesn't think she can do it.
Oh, I know I can't. One hand can't do something different to the other one.
You know what I like
I've
best
had a
about how you
lifetime
just
of
said that,
trying.
Alma, is that you had both hands doing the same things as you said that.
Exactly.
Just to prove that she's right. She said, I can't get the one hand to do anything different than the other hand.
I tried to learn piano, and I can play with the right fingers, the same fingers on both hands.
It's really hard
But
to do.
give me two different lots of no way.
Yeah. And if you remember from child rearing, little kids, their arms move at the same time. Their both legs move at the same time. It's not for a long while that something in the brain happens and they can start moving left and right separately from each other. That's a huge accomplishment.
Muscle memory.
That's
the
biggest challenge. The most important lesson in the early
Practice.
things is to learn how to lift one hand off to repeat the same note several times, whereas you want to go legato and just smooth from the other hand.
Well, one hand's doing it's kind of the rub your belly and pat your head. It's trying to do two different things at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm asking us to go one step. This is obviously a little more difficult than pat your head and rub your tummy, but it's the same game. So let's talk about the prize. Go ahead. I think, Rags, you were trying to say something.
Oh, it was interesting to me that it was very easy to do when you were doing it, when I could see you. My hands wearing your hands was very easy.
Yeah.
Trying to give like verbally two sets of instructions inside my own head was harder than just mimicking was really easy.
You're absolutely spot on, Rags. And this is I haven't drawn them back out, but why not? Let's put them back on the page here. There were 5 stages. This is Lev Vygotsky. There are 5 stages to learning. That mastery comes. It's not I can't do it and I can do it. There are 5 stages to it. 1 is you can't do it at all. 2, you can do it, but you need an immense amount of hand holding. 3, do you remember what 3 was?
Outside.
Do it with a prompt.
Yeah, you need a hint from the outside. That's perfect. And those of you who knew that without me saying so, you were already at mastery. 4 is where you get a hint, but you can hint yourself from inside.
Hint yourself.
Yeah, you hint yourself. Exactly. That's my favorite way of saying it. And this is where we are with this. That it's easier to do watching me go one hand in front of the other. This is staged, right? This is a little bit more hand holding.
Mm-hmm.
And then for you to get to do it yourself. What I'm talking about and the prize that I'm talking about, I'm not talking about, I'll tell you what I'm trying to talk about. The prize
is being able to do it.
I haven't ever said this one before, so this might not come out exactly right. Betsy, you were just saying that the hard thing is to get the one hand to come off while the other hand is moving smoothly. Mm-hmm. And I think I could tie this back into what was your favorite part of the trip and what your answer is that your initial answer, it might be, I'm really, really, really itchy. It might be the answer of where you are.
books in Paris Hotel.
But then how do you say something other than, how was your trip? I got bed bugs in it. I was up for 2 days straight scratching myself. How do you pivot away from the one thing that was naturally about to come out of your mouth and say something different? Somebody does something that's that pisses you off and you want to lash out. How do you, with the other hand, do something a little bit different than what you were about to do? That's what we're getting at. It's not about doing the hand thing. The hand thing's just practice, which is the same about how we respond to someone. How are you?
That's practice too.
It's also practice. And
I was thinking the heart of the practice might be to start with gratitude. If someone asks, how was your trip? To translate in my head before I answer, what am I grateful for about the trip?
Yeah. And how can we, I love that. Can we all make that a thing to practice in the next week? That can we try to make our first response that of gratitude? I'm going to take that as a yes.
Yeah, I hear that as great hesitation.
Yeah. It's wild, isn't it? That's wild. It's a crazy idea. I had a parallel thought that was coming and I just lost it. Oh. Well, if that thought wants to come back, it will. Oh, it did just come back. Oh, fantastic. I was talking with someone recently, and they said, well, RB, that's what they call me. You seem to just always be proud of me. And I said, well, here's a little secret of what I do. Is I start with the premise that I'm proud of that person. I'm proud of you. And then I look for reasons as to why. I start with the premise that I'm proud of that person. And then I look for reasons as to why.
Yeah, that's the same principle as starting with the gratitude and telling about the trip.
I mean, that's sort of things you do when you meditate and you pray.
Yeah.
That's the exact same thing. But
is we try to fill in. Now, Jane, I can hear Jane's voice in my head. And Jane saying, be wary and be careful that you're not doing some spiritual bypassing. That if you're having a hard time, that you don't just say, well, everything's fine. And you're not. That we
starting with gratitude doesn't mean only saying gratitude.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You know what my definition of fine is?
Go ahead.
Right.
Oh, yes.
What was the definition of fine? I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Fucked up, introverted, and naive and evasive. And neurotic and evasive.
Yeah. That's fine enough. All right.
My thoughts about all this is, I've been competitive all my life, and unless the benefits outweigh the energy, I don't go there.
That unless the benefits outweigh the energy. Say a little bit more, Jack.
Well, I mean, in other words, for whatever reason, that's been my modus operandi in life, in dealing with life, is that if the benefits do not outweigh the energy putting get the benefits, I'm not going to go there.
My friend Bill is a Jesuit, and he started a practice of spiritual expenditure. And he looked at everything and he said, well, is this going to add to my spiritual well-being, or is this going to cost my spiritual well-being? And he started to keep a ledger sheet of going to dinner that he didn't want to go to. He knew it was going to cost him. Yep. And so what was he going to have to do in order to bank in so that he'd be able to have what to spend?
Right.
Yeah. He was a clever little Jesuit. I'll tell you, he lived right next door to me. He lived one house to the north on 47th when we moved in. And he said to me, and I just love this. He said, arguing about theology is like me telling you, Brian, that I live closer to Alaska than you do. He did. But who cared?
Yeah.
That being said, let me take a moment and switch us towards announcements. This is, if you didn't know, this is a Saturday service. I'm glad that you're here. We have a clubhouse at mn.rotb.org. You're welcome to join us there. There you can also find the Chakina group. If you want to talk more about the God word, or you want to express how close you live to the North Pole compared to others who are here, you can join a lovely discussion of people there. And we just did a member spotlight. I know who's coming up next, but I can't remember who we just spotlit because
Kenzie.
Who was it?
A lady named Mackenzie, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not.
Can't remember that name. Anyway, go to the clubhouse, find out who's the new spotlight. I apologize for not remembering that at the moment. Other announcements on September 30th. We're having it's a Friday, and that's a Friday night between the Jewish holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And I'm running a high holiday service to which you are all invited, and you're all invited to invite your friends to please come. It's going to be broadcast from the First Christian United Church of Christ downtown. If you happen to live here in Portland, Betsy, Ron, and Kip, anyone else who lives anywhere near Portland or who would like to take a trip to Portland, you're welcome to sit in. It's the most magnificent Venetian architecture sanctuary. It's just gorgeous. Rags, you live nearby. Anyone who I didn't mention who lives nearby, you're all welcome to come in. Oh, Chad and Lisa. Yeah, of course.
And what time will it be, Rabbi?
Yes, it will.
Is that clear?
I don't know. I just got the space reserved right before the trip, and I haven't done much more since. Any other announcements from people who are here? Things you want to announce? Tell us.
Today is Joe's birthday.
Oh, it is our friend Joe's birthday, and it is. You all know Joe. She had a surgery yesterday, and she had a tooth extracted, and she's hoping the tooth fairy came, and we will see. I would love to give her a little gift. I'm going to switch us over to the all group view. And if you guys, I know it never sounds well to sing everyone together.
Oh my goodness.
Let's use that note. Let's all sing a happy birthday to our friend Joe, who's officially an adult today. She decided that. I spoke with her. She said, "I don't think 21. I can." She said, "I don't think I can pretend to be a kid anymore. I think there's some magical number around 64, 65 where you have to say, I'm now an adult." She said she is willing to now claim, I have it written down, that she's moving, I can't find the note, that she's moving to becoming the older wise woman of the village. And I thought that was a wonderful thing to say. So let's sing a happy birthday to the older wise woman of the village. Ready? On that note, can you give us that note again, Aaron? There we go. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Anymore.
That was just.
I'm sure Joe will remember that for a long time.
That was just great.
Yes.
That goes back to the phrase my buddy Larry taught me. my buddy Larry taught me when I was complaining to him about the horrible music that the middle school band was making. And he said, sometimes you have to love people more than you love music.
That's right.
And how the same's true there. And I'm thinking about Joe, and Joe is there's a word affable, that she's just likable.
Yes.
There's a likableness to Joe. And I think that thing I was just telling you about, where you look at a person and you look for the reasons to be proud of them. There's something that's so likable about Joe, in that she's willing to share herself and just be who she is. That makes her just likable, because she's not pretending to be other than who she is. And I would love us just to I'd love 3 or 4 different people to give a comment of, what is it that you like about our friend Joe? And then
huge heart.
Say that again, Kip.
She's got a huge heart.
She's got a huge heart. Give me another one.
She feels guileless. She is without guile.
Yeah.
There's little guile. Go ahead,
She
Emily.
always likes me, no matter what. I don't know why.
She's always
Those
like,
people are rare.
yeah. And I guess here's the and if Joe were to make a faux pas in our group, would you be willing to forgive her? Of course. And why?
Squabble it out and still be friends. I mean, that's the reason I like Joe, is because she's my friend, right? We don't always see eye to eye, but we always work it out. And that is why I love her.
Yeah. Amen.
And it goes back to that thing of, if that I like her, and then I look for reasons to support that.
Yes.
She provides hearts of many colors.
She provides hearts of many. Joe has got an issue with emojis. If you're on the Clubhouse, or if you've ever texted her, at some point, somehow she got the idea that the more emojis you put in a text thread, the better the text thread. And you remember that phrase? Do you remember the phrase that if you dislike someone, the way they hold their plate, the way they hold their fork will offend you, but if you like them, they could drop a plate of food in your lap and you wouldn't mind? Joe is that. If I didn't like Joe, all of those emojis would drive me absolutely batty.
Right.
But because it's Joe,
they're fantastic.
It's fantastic. And Wes, you extrapolate a moral out of this, a life lesson out of what we're just talking about right now?
We love her.
We love her, and then we love her then because we love her. We started with loving her, and then we look for the reasons why. And it doesn't matter what she does, we love her for it. Who wants to grow up and be more like Joe?
Me.
I gotta I gotta change the screen so she can see all that. Okay, hold on. Keep your hands up for a second. We want to be more like Joe. Why? Somebody who hasn't already spoken. What is it that Joe's bringing to the party that we all want to have?
Herself.
Yeah.
And to give us permission to be our own selves.
That's it, Betsy. To give us permission. If Joe can do it, there's this great quote from St. Augustine, who said, "Si ille cor non ego." I didn't just make up that quote. That's a real one. And St. Augustine said, if they can do it, if he can do it, if she can do it, why can't I?
Yeah.
And if Joe has given Joe's self permission to be Joe, why don't I have permission to be me? And doesn't it inspire me to be more authentically, just let me put myself out there exactly as I am. And those who like me will like me, and those who don't, well, I don't even notice them. Bob, you have your hand raised. I don't want to ignore you.
Yes, another birthday being celebrated today is our great-granddaughter Zoe turns 3.
Oh, happy
Very
birthday to Zoe. Thank you for sharing that.
Just out of the terrible twos. Anyway.
I heard a thing about 3-year-olds that 3-year-olds are 2-year-olds with 1 year of experience.
I'd say that's accurate. I have a 3-year-old grandson.
Yeah. I did watch a Malcolm Gladwell masterclass on the flight because I had a lot of flight time, and he said that there's a theory that what little kids are doing at that age is they're realizing that the whole world doesn't think the way they think. And that's what they're testing out on every occasion is, really, this annoys you? Ha! Very, very good. Marie, and any further comments, quotes on Joe or lessons we can take from that? Well, usually our friend Joe reads us a name of people to add to our prayers, to add to our thoughts. And Maria, if you would read to us that list for today.
Okay. April, Joe for quick healing and a happy birthday to her. Ray, Patty, Amy, Marilyn G, Linda D, Jess, Abbas, the Sweden elections, Derek, Rita S, the new school year, for flooding victims in various areas, James Wilson, Ukraine, Peggy B, Ralph B, and Marta C. And if there is anyone else in our community or outside our community that we can offer love and light to, please put their name in the chat, and then I will add them to the list and post that in the clubhouse.
And so we're gonna take a minute and add all those other names in as well. Let's take a minute of time. Just when my clock here says 30 seconds, we'll sit quietly for a minute with all the names that have been mentioned and all the names that are being added into the chat.
Oopsie.
Man.
What do we?
All right. Well, thank you for that moment. I have a homework assignment for you. Well, I have a few. One, if you would like to try the thumb, finger, pinky thing, that's completely optional. I will not. I did used to make my students, that was their first exam. And I always said to them, this is exactly math. It's just learning a pattern and being able to reproduce it. And we talked about the 5 levels of learning on doing so. I'm not going to ask you guys to do that. I will comment. I got a number of emails. The last 2 emails I sent out were about me teaching math. And I got a number of emails that said, it's somewhat along the lines of, it's a shame that these kids don't have you teaching them math anymore. And what I didn't write was, but I wrote individually to people who made the comment. I didn't put it in the article. Was that I traded in my students, my high school mathematics students, for a much harder and more wonderful cohort of learners. And that the cohort of learners that I have now is you. Is a group of adults who are all trying, like I am, to live a life with a little more gratitude, to live a life with a little less anger, to live a life with a little bit more love and community. And I so enjoyed this. I always loved the teaching in the high school. That was a little bit easier, and there's something just wrong in my head where if it's not an impossible thing to do, I don't find it really that enjoyable. And I love this job. In the high school I had a huge advantage that I don't have here. That in the high school, the students had to show up or they would eventually find their way into jail, right? You don't have to be here on a Saturday or whenever it is you're watching this. You don't have to be here at all. You choose to. And I can't coerce you to do anything. I have actually zero power over any of you. And that you do it, anyway, here's the homework, the extra piece of homework I have for you. And you'll see at the very top, it says mandatory. All ROTB, and then at the bottom it says, this is mandatory but not required. So please don't think you have to do this. Mandatory. All ROTB members must tell one of the next 3 people with whom they interact, hey, I like you. Do you have to do that? No.
Yeah.
But I'm going to challenge you to try it.
It's hard. It's harder than saying I love you.
If you want to say I love you, go for that. Adapt it as you can. But then just to think, I think the mental exercise that I'm asking you to do here is hard. But it's to look out at the people with whom you interact and to say, I'm going to figure out some reason that I like someone today. And I'm going to put that out in the world. Alex, you got your hand up. What's going on?
Yeah, I actually did that not because I knew you were going to assign this homework. I just sort of coincidentally did this within the past week with my next door neighbor.
Yeah.
We've started a thing where she comes over once a week and we sit and have wine. And because she was kind of at loggerheads with my mother because she was difficult. Anyway, this last week I said, Yvette, I really like you. And I think you are too good just to be my next door neighbor. I would like you to be my friend. That be okay? And she got the biggest smile on her face. And it was really, she's a lovely woman and I think she's great, but her reaction to that really took me by surprise because I kind of felt sort of awkward. When I said it, I said, this is going to sound weird and I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but I like you. I think you're too good to be just my next door neighbor. I'd like you to be my friend. And she was just she just lit up. It was really cool. And she said, that's great. Yes.
Yeah. Well, Alex, I had no way of knowing that you had just done this, but that's exactly the reaction that you who are thinking about doing this, do it. Because think about how you would feel if someone said that to you.
They're going to want to know why, though.
Wonderful. And tell them.
I agree.
I'm certain that each of you are clever enough to come up with at least one reason why you like somebody.
Yep. Acting funny.
It's just that's the whole assignment. Any questions about this homework assignment? None. Good. Well, let's try it. Let's see. And I have this crazy look. I'm a dreamer, but I have this crazy idea.
Not the only one.
That the world will become a better place if more people tell more people what they like about them.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
That's over.
Okay. We are at 8:55, and I have about 4 more topics that I'm going to bring in right now. I'm kidding.
Of course.
Wait a minute. No.
Plenty of time.
I'm teasing. I do. I have this whole thing that I wanted to bring in, but I'm gonna do this, and I'll tell you guys a little. I'll show you a little bit into how I'm doing this. Is I have a pile right over here. This pile right here. This is the pile of things that I I thought the last 2 weeks I was going to do. 2 weeks ago I thought I was going to do. I didn't. I'm going to add this other page to there. I'm not ready to throw that out quite yet, but gosh, I sure had thought we were going to get to do that. Let me see.
Hey, Brian.
Yes.
Hey, Brian. Hey, Brian.
Yes.
Hey,
yes.
Brian.
Yes.
I like you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Aaron gets credit for being the first one to complete that assignment after Alex.
You teach me a lot.
I'm sure there's a prize.
He needs to say why, right? He's got to go.
He said I teach him a lot, and
You teach me a lot. I'm not.
I'll take it.
He does. That's why I'm here.
And let's talk about the prize. What is the prize? I don't know.
You know how I feel, even though that's hard sometimes.
The prize is you're making the world a better place. The prize is you get to see, like Alex did, the utter joy that we should only hope that Bob's great-granddaughter has. That you get to see that joy on an adult.
Yes.
How cool is that? That's the prize. Okay. I'm going to say that we're close enough. I'm going to round up to 9 o'clock. We're going to continue with deep dive with donuts. I have a little room going. Poetry should be happening today.
Yeah.
And let's do this again next week. And bring a friend if you can. Everyone, let's wave to all the people who are on the Facebook or on YouTube or everywhere else. I'm going to turn the recording off right now.